Er du til sci-fi, role-playing game og first-person shooter, så med her, for vi har taget et kig på Deus Ex, Mankind Divided. Nu er et smut i London, hvor vi får lov til at se first hands-on på det nye Deus Ex, Mankind Divided. Her fik vi blandt andet lov til at snakke med nogle af udviklerne, og hvordan det gik til, det kan I se lige her.
We are human beings. Each and every one of us. This must not go on. This injustice must end.
Deus Ex Mankind Divided is a direct sequel to Deus Ex Human Revolution. Deus Ex is an action RPG. It's set on four main gameplay pillars. You can play combat, stealth, there's hacking and social interactions involved. So with Mankind Divided, we're 2 years after the events of Human Revolution. At the end of that game, there was a big incident with all the population in the world who had augmentations that were kind of triggered into a frenzy, and there was a lot of destruction following that. So 2 years later, we're in a world where there's a lot of kind of segregation. People are scared of everyone who has augmentations, and they're being pushed into ghettos and things like that. So we're in a world that's much darker, I think, that HR. So that's kind of where we pick things up with Adam Jensen, our hero who is back from Human Revolution. And we have an Adam Jensen who's much more confident with who he is. In the previous game, the famous kind of tagline was, I never asked for this, right?
Yeah.
In this one, we have Adam who's much more comfortable with who he is, and he feels that he can use all his augmentation, his power. The way you play and the way you talk to different characters, even maybe objects or things that you could pick up along the way you use them will open up different different branches of the story for you. Especially getting to the end of the game, in HR you kind of had a choose your ending type of situation where you had four endings and you choose whichever one you wanted. Now with Mankind Divided, when you get to the end, you'll have multiple choices, but those choices will be open to you based on the things that you did previously in the game. So we're trying to boost that choice and consequences offer in Mankind Divided.
How are those choices gonna impact this game? Where do you leave off? How do you start a story that had 4 different endings depending on the player who played it?
So the way we approach it, we didn't have a way to track what the players did in Human Revolution, because back then we didn't really know we were going to make a sequel.
No.
So we don't have that information. So what we decided to do was there's a bit of truth to all the endings, right? And the way we pick things up in Mankind Divided is the big incident was the AUG incident, where the augmented population had this was triggered and hacked. We feel that normal population like you or me, maybe we don't have all the details of why it happened, what was the politics behind it, so we kind of leave things a little bit murky. That's kind of the narrative approach. But I think all the players can find a bit of truth in how we pick things up with Adam Jensen in Mankind Divided. There's definitely references to HR. We're only 2 years after, so everything that happened with the AUG incident is heavily referenced, because that's the main trigger for the start of our game. There's some returning characters. Obviously, Adam Jensen, if you knew him from the previous game, you feel that is somewhere else as a character, and that's great. If you invested time in him in HR, you're going to feel that. But if you're a new player to the franchise, we're going to really put the game in context as a kind of a standalone story. We make sure that we introduce you to what's the AUG incident. You're going to spend a bit of time with Adam Jensen as a character early in the game as well, so you can get to know him, get to know the different factions he's working with. So the new player can absorb all this information.
In this new game, there's a lot of new augmentation to Adam Jensen. Which one is your favorite in particular?
My favorite, I think, is this one, the nano blade.
Yeah.
And in HR, you have this is really his iconic blade. You can only use it in different takedowns situation, but now it's actually a projectile, and it's a very deadly and efficient projectile. So I think when you play stealth, aggressive, or even combat, that's something that you can use. It looks really cool as well. And you can even upgrade the nano blade so it can be used as an explosive device. So you can kind of mix and match your playstyle. If you're running out of grenades, that's something you can actually use fluidly in combat. So nano blades are awesome, but we have a bunch of new augmentations that the players will actually be able to use actively in combat. In HR, we had more passive augmentations. so more health and things like that. So obviously these are back, but the players will have more opportunities to actually trigger some really cool looking augmentations in Mankind Divided.
Glæder I jer til det nye Deus Ex, så skriv ned i comment-sektionen nedenunder, og så ses vi ellers næste gang.
The promise of a golden age is over.